Celebrate this spooktacular sizzling Sprint weekend with scary good savings at your local Sprint store. This weekend only, you can pick up the new iPad Gen 7 featuring a 10.2-inch Retina display and smart keyboard on us when you add a new line on a qualifying plan. There's never been a better time to switch. Stop by your local Sprint store during sizzling Sprint weekend, October 25th through October 27th to learn more. iPad 7th Gen 32GB, $0 per month after 1917 monthly credit for 24 months credit. Apply within 2 bills. Requires new line on qualifying plan. If you cancel early, remaining balance due. Tax to its sale.
I'm a lifelong Southerner, married to an Indian man who grew up in South Africa during apartheid, and I am fiercely proud of both. If you don't like that, well, bless your heart. I'm Sheryl Parbhoo, and this is Southern Life, Indian Wife. All right, so today I have got Anju Gattani. Am I saying it right?
Yes, you are.
Okay, good, because I have that American accent and inability to say different kinds of names.
Well, you say all things beautifully, so we're all good.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Since it's getting into the holiday season, I wanted to have you come and talk about Diwali, because that is in October before Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. And when I married my husband, I was always told that Diwali is the Indian Christmas. So I wanted to kind of get the real scoop on the holiday.
Okay.
And I know you've got a really interesting background. So you have a very wide scope of perspective, I guess, on the holiday.
Yeah, a very unique perspective, I'd say, which sometimes coincides with the general thinking pattern and sometimes doesn't.
Okay.
So, that all comes in basically from experiences I've had. So I'm excited to share all of them with you. Yeah. And I listened to some of your other podcasts with, other speakers, and I really enjoyed what I've heard.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I love just kind of shooting the wind with people. So sometimes you can't stop me.
You're good at what you do.
Well, thank you. Yeah. So a little bit about you. You were born and grew up in Hong Kong?
Well, born in India.
Oh, okay.
In Bareilly, where Priyanka Chopra is from, which is exciting. But, grew up in Hong Kong for the majority of my life. I would say a good 22, 23 years. Very, very British school. Over 36 nationalities under one roof at any time.
Wow.
And so a very multicultural feel, students from Japan, Korea, India, USA, to different parts of Europe, to kids from Africa, to Australia. I mean, there were families from all over the continent in Hong Kong, including the Chinese. And even within the Chinese, there were so many different sectors of the different colloquial Chinese backgrounds they came from. So it was a real multicultural playground, so to speak.
Wow. Okay. So your family, of course, has the traditional Indian culture and religion. That's what you grew up with, even though you were not in India.
Yep. Yeah. So I would say think of Bend It Like Beckham.
Okay.
But without the soccer.
Okay. Not an athlete, huh?
No. Let's not go there. The culture clash that you saw in Bend It Like Beckham, and, Gurinder Chadda's recent release, Blinded by the Light, another fantastic film, really captures the feel and the era of the 1980s and 90s. Okay. Which is what a lot of us went through. And, growing up in a multicultural city. So very Indian family, probably not as much as what you saw in Blinded by the Light. My parents had a really good mix, but also still very, very Indian on the inside. And the moment you stepped out the door, it was a wave of multicultural that hit you. Okay. And so we learned to juggle between the two sides very quickly. And I can just say that the moment we would come home, for example, if we're talking to our parents, it would be English with an Indian accent. The moment we stepped out, it's English with the British accent. Okay, so very much the ability to just code switch on a dime. On the dime without even realizing it. And I think what I understand looking back is that taught us a lot in terms of being able to adapt and adjust to any and every situation. Because you're so used to doing it. Right. And adjusting to the people around you and the changes in the environment, the situation, you become very quick at thinking on your feet and managing with what you have around you. Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. So, but with traditions, your family maintained that very Indian
essence, right?
Yes, they did.
So with Diwali, that was a big, important part of your family, I assume?
It was huge.
Okay.
You're right in what you said. It's equivalent to the American and British Christmas, and I would say in America, Thanksgiving.
Okay.
That's the scale at which it's at, because I know Thanksgiving is huge here. A lot of families come together, people take trips, road trips, they fly down all over the place. You know, the amount of food that's cooked and served, it's exciting.
It's very exciting. There's always 3 times more than any football team could eat.
Really?
Oh, yes.
So what we see on TV is the real thing.
You know, what we see on TV, at least what I've seen, is very formal dinners. You know, the head of the household is cutting the turkey and everyone's sitting there at this nicely laid table. And I'm sure there are families out there that do that, but my family has never done that. It's just sort of a free-for-all. You lay it all out on every single kitchen counter. Everybody just goes and serves themselves, and we sit around watching football and, you know, make ourselves sick eating. So that's our ritual.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it is very fun.
Yeah.
So back to Diwali.
Yeah.
What's that like?
So here's the difference. You know how you have spring cleaning? So we have Diwali cleaning.
Oh,
which starts pretty much, you know, several weeks ahead of the Diwali itself, because there's a belief that, and one of the goddesses we worship is goddess Lakshmi, Lakshmi Ji. And the belief is that, you know, on the night of Diwali, she's basically out and about. And if your house is clean, sparkling, she'll come and visit you and shower you with blessings, prosperity, wealth, because she's a goddess of wealth.
Okay.
So a lot of families believe that if you keep your house clean, and, you know, and that really means cleaning every shelf, every cupboard, which is exhausting.
Yes.
So as fun as the festival is, the one thing that I've always remembered right from the beginning is the house cleaning, which starts several weeks ahead of time.
Yikes.
And it's a lot of work. So that is followed by, obviously, then the 5 days of Diwali. So Diwali usually spans over 5 days.
Okay.
Day 1 is known as Dhanteras. And that's usually when families go out and buy something in gold or silver. It's considered good luck.
Okay. So do they buy just one trinket for the family?
It could be a trinket. It could be something, you know, for the home or for somebody.
Okay.
And that's usually a good luck kind of thing that people do to welcome prosperity.
Okay.
And then you light one diya. And the diya is like a crucible, a earthenware crucible, which is made of clay, earthenware. It's baked in the kiln, and then, you know, we fill it with oil, and we have a long cotton wick, which we dip in the oil, and then we light that. So it's like an oil lamp, so to speak.
Okay.
But a very miniature version of it.
So you light it. Do you leave it lit until it
We just leave it lit until it goes out.
Okay.
So that's day 1, Dhanteras. Day 2 is Choti Diwali, also known in, if I translate that, it's like Diwali Eve or Little Diwali.
Okay.
That is the build up to the actual Diwali day. And that evening, you know, a lot of families, they shower in the evenings again, and then they dress up, and then they light 5 diyas. And that could vary from family to family. You know, so in my family, it's been day 1 is 1 diya, day 2 is 5 diyas. Again, it's the same concept of, you know, preparing for the Festival of Lights, which is what Diwali is.
Okay. Yeah. And that is my main question. What the heck exactly does that mean?
So it goes back to, if you take the approach of the practical side of it as well, there are 2 approaches you can come from. Okay. One is it indicates the end of harvest for many farmers. This is back in the day when, you know, peasants, farmers were the main, I think, the population in India. Mm-hmm. And so Diwali kind of signified the end of the harvest.
Okay.
And so it was also a cause for celebration because it was the coming of winter. And so they lit diyas in, you know, to commemorate that. Okay. But the more important story is the coming home of Lord Ram. And he is sort of the reincarnate of Lord Vishnu. Now, what happened in his story is that he was born to King Dashrath, and King Dashrath had 4 wives, if I remember correctly, 4 wives. He was the oldest son of the 4 sons in total. Okay. From the wives. And I could be wrong. I think it could be 3 wives. But anyway.
There were a lot.
Yeah. Indian religion does have a lot of, you know, I would say diversity to it in terms of the kings and the queens and the number of wives they had and the number of children they had. Mm-hmm. But Lord Ram was the oldest of all the 4 brothers from that king. And he was sent in exile for 14 years. He was banished to the forest. But with his return came the fact that he had also, killed the Indian highest pinnacle of a demon, so to speak, called Ravan.
Okay.
So the day that he actually killed Ravan is known as the Shera.
Dashera.
And that is the day, that Lord Ram killed Ravan.
Mm-hmm.
So in a lot of places in India, you'll see huge effigies of of Ravan put up and burned.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So that celebrates that.
Uh-huh.
And then it was a 10-day time period from when Lord Ram killed Ravan to when he came home on Diwali. So it's like a homecoming, so to speak.
Okay.
And that's, to celebrate and honor his coming home after the exile. The palace was lit up with these oil lamps to welcome him.
Okay.
Now, the other part of it is also that it's the victory of good over evil, light over darkness.
Now, that is the very simplistic.
That is the most simplistic form
that I have ever heard. Yeah,
Yep.
that I've always been told.
Yep.
And that's a wonderful thing to celebrate.
It is. And so the funny thing is that, we have so many stories, even now, trilogies and series, which talk about good over evil, light over dark, even movies that are produced by Hollywood and Bollywood today.
Yeah.
So the concept is something that stems back to a very basic of positive over negative. And so Diwali.
And that's worldwide.
That's worldwide.
Yeah, that's in every single belief system, dating back to pre-organized religion.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So I hope that was able to kind of cover it in a nutshell for you.
Definitely. I mean, that condenses the story pretty well. So that's great because ever since I've been a part of Indian culture, on the fringe anyway, I always wanted to know what Diwali really was about. And I was around people that celebrated it and, they did the garbas, they dressed up, but I never really got a good explanation for what it is. It's just something we do.
It's something we do.
Which is like what we do with Christmas and Thanksgiving. Everybody doesn't know the full story behind everything. We just do it with our family because it's a thing.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
And I think, the good thing is now with the internet, you can Google a lot of the stuff out and kind of research into what it's all about. Why do we use and why do we practice certain traditions and rites that we do?
Yeah.
And that definitely helps define and refine our actions.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the internet is good.
Yes.
And it does have its downfalls, but it definitely has its power.
Yeah.
Great. So tell me what it looks like in your family when you were growing up and now when Diwali comes.
So growing up in Hong Kong, we didn't have a lot of the luxuries, for example, that you get in India and the US.
Okay.
Indian products, Indian goods that are easy to buy and sort of make life simple.
No Amazon.
No, no Amazon, right? We were still functioning on landlines and paying international calls.
How did we ever do that?
Think about it now. It feels really weird.
Yeah.
So everything was done and made from scratch. And Hong Kong was not a place where you could go into an Indian store and buy sweets or, savory dishes or things like that. Everything was made by hand. So mom spent at least a good 4 to 5 days prior to Diwali, and this is after all the cleaning and the house cleaning stuff, then cooking sweetmeats and making, savory snacks.
Wow.
And the whole house would just be full of the fragrance of food. And the house means apartments. Everybody in Hong Kong lives usually pretty much in an apartment.
Okay.
So you'd get fragrances. You go into any household at that time, and that's the fragrance you'd get in an Indian home.
Wow.
And so that was, I would say the key sense that I remember. But what was unique in Hong Kong for us was a lot of our Indian friends also celebrated Diwali after the 5 days of Diwali with a Diwali Ball. And that was a huge cultural event, which was held in a 5-star hotel.
Nice.
And we all dressed up. You wore your best sort of ghagra choli or sari, whatever you wanted to wear. And we had cultural dances, which we were kids at that time. So we performed on stage.
Nice.
Now, we didn't have the Bollywood music that you have now, which is fabulous, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But we had our version of what was Indian music and Indian songs, which were coming up and sort of tuning into Western society as well.
Okay.
So yeah, my friends and I, we would sometimes have group dances, sometimes individual dances, and we all performed on stage. And it was a way to also recognize and practice a lot of the dances that we saw on TV, which then kind of gave us a feel of where we belong.
Okay.
Which really helped.
Yeah.
So the Japanese wore their kimonos.
Oh, okay.
For their events, and we'd see them. And every culture definitely celebrated their festivals, and we did ours in the same way.
Okay.
So for us as kids, after the whole, Diwali cleaning, the prayers and everything, the next big thing was this Diwali ball, which we practiced a month or 2 months for in terms of our solo or group dances.
That's exciting.
And that was really fun.
Yeah. When I first met my husband, maybe a couple of months after we started dating, I went to an event where he did some dancing.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so I'm the 16-year-old girl from Memphis, Tennessee, very white, Wonder Bread. The only dancing I ever did was ballet. Right. My family never danced. Oh, heck no, we didn't. Right. And then I see this boy that I'm completely in love with like a bandana thing around his head and a completely white outfit, barefoot, clicking sticks with people up on the stage. It was super cool, but I'm like, this is not the kind of guy that I've ever met before. I didn't know what to think of it, but it was really exciting and like being thrown into a whole another world.
Yes, it is.
Was it like that?
It was like that. And that's the one thing Indians love. They love to celebrate. Uh-huh. They love the colorful clothes. We just love to dress. Yes. We love the vibrant colors. Mm-hmm. And so, you put all of that together with good music and good food, and you're asking for fun.
Yeah.
And so that's what, for us growing up, that's what the excitement of Diwali was. So even though it wasn't, India, so to speak, not that India is what it used to be anymore, but we made our own little version of it. Okay. With, the Gujaratis had their own Gujarati Diwali ball.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
The Sindhis had their own Sindhi Diwali balls. And we had our own. We're from Rajasthan, from Jaipur. So a lot of us, we had our own Marwari Diwali balls or Rajasthani Association Diwali balls.
Okay.
And the difference was the colloquial language that everybody spoke in. Mm-hmm. So Gujaratis would speak in their language, and they would, get together with their group, celebrate Diwali in the Diwali ball their way.
Okay.
Which was also song, dance, and food, by the way.
Yeah.
It's the same
pretty
thing.
Much all the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much the same.
It's kind of like Mexican food. Like it's all the same ingredients, but just in a different form, right?
A different form, different color, different texture, but it's all about celebration.
Yeah.
And we had our own thing too. And this is back in the day when everything was video recorded. Uh-huh. So then we'd exchange video recorded cassettes, the video cassettes.
I remember the cassettes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pop it in the video and see how was the Gujarati ball this year? How was the Sindhi ball this year?
Awesome. So like you were friends with everybody.
We were friends with everybody.
That. Okay.
Oh yeah. And they'd see our performances through our video recordings and see. So there was all the pre-work, and then there was all the post-fun that went on with it. So those are the really strong memories I have of Diwali. Now, going back to how did it differ? So instead of earthenware clay lamps, mom and dad used the porcelain crucibles, for example, which you would use for sauces and chutneys.
Oh, okay.
Because you didn't get earthenware lamps there.
So you just make use of
what you have.
Okay.
And so but it was still the same 1 lamp on Dhanteras, 5 on Choti Diwali, and 11 on the main Diwali festival.
Okay.
So, growing up, what I've learned is, the traditions, the values, the practices can stay the same. Mm-hmm. You just find ways of making that happen with what you have.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Mm-hmm. So how have you been able to work it into, you have 2 sons, right?
I have 2 sons, that's right.
So you've lived all over the world, and you have these boys that have, for the most part, grown up here in the U.S.?
Pretty much.
Okay. So how do you share that with them? Because I'm sure that there are forces tugging them to the other side of culture and, the white American or just the general American sort of culture.
The only time we really hit a crossroad was when Diwali and Halloween were on the same day.
Oh, no.
Because then you had the Festival of Light and the Festival of Darkness on the same day.
Yeah. Confusing.
Confusing. And not just that, you're trying to celebrate light, but on the other side, the kids want to dress up and go around trick or treating.
Heck yeah, they want to be dressed up as a skeleton and get some candy. That's a little more appealing.
It's far more appealing for them.
Yeah.
So the trade-off we did was, all right, you get to do this half first, and then you can do the other half later. Just don't dress up as a skeleton. Dress up as something more acceptable, because we're celebrating light today.
Right. That makes sense.
So but they're very open, as are we, to all the festivals. And so there's never really been a tug of war ever, because we celebrate Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
We celebrate Easter. When they were smaller, we did.
Okay.
For the Easter eggs and everything. Yeah. And the rule in the house is, if it's an Indian festival, we make Indian food that day. If it's a Western festival, no Indian food. So that's how we kind of, have a few tiny little rules.
Okay.
Having grown up the way I did, having seen the diversity that I have, I think being able to do that for the kids makes them want to celebrate everything.
Yes. And embrace their entire world.
Embrace their entire world, because their entire world is not just Indian.
Right.
It's American, and it's also in many ways African American. Mm-hmm. And it's also Japanese or Korean or Chinese or whatever their friends and the surroundings are.
Right. But I do love that you're committed to maintaining that culture that you brought from your upbringing with your kids. Mm-hmm. Because like with my people, most of my ancestry is from, England, Scotland, Irish, pretty much the same mutt mix that every other white person in the South and the Midwest is. And I don't know that we have any real cultural, maybe some vestigial values, but I don't know that there's any real cultural ritual or practice that we have that our ancestors had.
Right. And,
even from my family growing up with Christmas, it wasn't a religious thing. It was Santa Claus. And I guess that is, that is a ritual. But I don't feel like that's a real rich, spiritual, soulful sort of cultural tradition. So I love that you do have that.
It takes a lot of effort to keep up with it. Mm-hmm. I'll give you that, especially when Diwali comes, and then comes Thanksgiving, and then comes Christmas. Mm-hmm. And before Diwali, you have Navratri, which a lot of people really, really celebrate and hype up. Mm-hmm. So it all depends on your perspective, I would say.
Yeah.
And, how much you're willing to put in. But it definitely has helped ground me to my cultural values and my system of beliefs. And I feel that by putting in the effort, it will help ground my kids too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So your philosophy is just, give them everything that's in their, not give them everything. All kids want to be given everything. But I mean, culturally, give them something from everything that is around them.
Going back to the question of, what my kids have felt, I think they're happy. They're really happy that they've been exposed to everything. Mm-hmm. They don't have to pick and choose.
I love that.
There's no mandatory, you got to pick this or you got to choose that. Mm-hmm. No, we celebrate everything. We celebrate everyone. And
hallelujah. Yeah. I love that.
And that's how it should be. That really is how it should be, because then you learn to respect other cultures. You learn to respect other people's values and their system of beliefs.
Yes.
Which was what makes other people different from who and what you are. Mm-hmm. And, my kids have a diversity of friends, as do I. Here I am talking to you, for example, and we talk before the recording, and we'll be talking after the recording. And there's just so much to exchange. But look at the beauty of it is that we can accept each other's story and journey without judging.
That's the thing, because we all have our own journey. It doesn't matter if you're Indian or American or Chinese or whatever. You have your own story.
You have your own story.
Your personality within whatever it is that you grew up in.
Exactly. And I grew up, honestly, in King George V School in Hong Kong, known as KG5, which was under the British system.
Okay.
And I was exposed more to Christianity than I was to my Indian roots.
Wow.
So if you read Harry Potter, you'll see all these things about head boy, head girl, or prefects, so to speak. Yeah. That's what we had. We had that system. We had Monday, Friday assemblies. We sang a lot of the British hymns, the hymns, and plus we had verses from the Bible read out.
Okay.
So we actually knew a lot about Christianity growing up. But when I would compare it with our Indian religion as well, which I was getting exposed to in bits and pieces, I realized basically it's all the same.
Yes. It really, really is.
It is.
And I love that perspective that, even when you were younger, you could see that.
I could see that. I mean, we were also exposed to a lot of the Chinese festivals.
Mm-hmm.
And again, their belief systems are so much in line with what Christianity and with what Hinduism also says, which is just a model or a way of being able to live your life in peace and harmony. That's it.
Isn't that what we're all looking for?
That's what we're all looking for.
Yeah.
And, I think religion, whether you choose to go with a God A or a B or a C, is basically a way to have a faith in something that keeps you grounded.
Yes. It gives you purpose.
Gives you purpose, gives you direction.
Yes, it gives you direction. And some would say it also gives some social control.
Yes.
But we won't get into that right now.
That's true. We can stay away from that.
Yeah, that's a whole different podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is so true that we all want the same things in life. We want to have guidance. We want to be grounded. We want to have a happy, healthy family. We want our kids to do well.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what religion you come from.
It really doesn't.
Where you live in the world.
Yeah, that's true. And so that's, been the learning that I've experienced. And, so going back to, the effort it takes to put all the preparation in for every festival. It takes effort to put together presents and wrap them for Christmas and put them under a tree.
Yes.
It takes effort for figuring out, okay, if we're going to make a Thanksgiving dinner and it's not Indian, what are we going to do, which is fun and different?
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to do the Indian Diwali dinner, what are we doing this year, which is going to hold up our values and beliefs and the rite of passage or the rite of rituals that we've been practicing for so many years, but which still keeps it alive.
Yeah. It's a very conscious way of living.
It is.
I like that. Yeah. Cause I kind of fly by the seat of my pants a lot of the time in life. And I just kind of let life roll over me. And it's funny because with Christmas, I guess maybe November 1st or the middle of November will roll around and I'll be like, oh, it's almost Christmas. And my husband says, Christmas comes the same time every year. Right?
Yes. Where have
not
you been?
A surprise. But you just kind of let it go. And so I like this deliberate living philosophy.
It helps. It helps keeps your sanity. It helps keeps the families and the kids' sanity because you're celebrating everything around you.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
And which is basically, in a nutshell, you're celebrating life.
Love that. So that's what it is. That's the basis. That's Diwali. That's everything.
It's celebrating life. I mean, even for our prayers, we have certain things that we always use. There's always going to be a small trough of water. Okay. There always has to be white grains of rice and the red kumkum powder and flowers and then the red thread known as moli. So these are the very basics in your puja or prayer plate, so to speak, which you then offer to God. And of course, then there are flowers, there's fruits, there's, nuts, and there are Indian sweets. And those are all the things that come together afterwards. But you have the very basic. And so, for us, it's making sure we have all of that prepped ahead of time and, things are done because Diwali is never on the same day each year. It goes by the lunar calendar.
Okay.
So knowing when it's going to fall, making sure you have everything you need ahead of that, and we wear new clothes on that day.
Oh, that's fun.
Yep. So we try and keep everything brand new as well. So making sure everybody has something new to wear.
Okay.
And, of course, then it takes the whole day for me. From cooking in the morning, I would say, to the prayers in the evening.
It's exhausting.
And when you're not a kid anymore and you're running the show.
Yeah, I know what that's like.
Yep. It can get really exhausting. But then at the end of the day, when you look back at what you've done, you're like, we did it again.
Yeah,
we pulled it off and we didn't let go of anything. We held on to everything we had. And the kids start tuning in as well each year more and more. With you, and it brings everyone together as a family.
I love that. That's amazing. Yeah. So I hope that people that live in the area or anywhere that are not Indian have learned something from this for sure.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, because people hear about different holidays and different religions, but we're just not exposed to the details. So I think that this is really great because it's also going to give people a different perspective of understanding and acceptance, not just tolerance, which I hate that word, but acceptance.
Right. It's acceptance and it's, celebration. of us being us. And then when it's your turn, we get to celebrate you being you.
Yes. Hey, I love it. I love it. That's what life is all about.
That's what it's about.
Yeah.
And the way I see it is you get one life to live. The choice is, how do you want to live it?
Right. Wow. That's the subject of a whole nother podcast.
Yes,
too.
it is.
We could definitely talk about that forever.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm going to have you another time so that we can talk about your books because, with all of this knowledge of Diwali and all of your culture, you are a writer, an amazing writer and a prolific writer. So you have a lot to share about.
I mean, Diwali is so huge. It's so big. You can't cross the months of October and November without bringing it up.
Mm-hmm.
And so the debut in my series, Duty and Desire, there is an entire segment of the book devoted to the festival and how it brings together this very, very uncertain, unsure relationship. Now, does it bring it to fruition? Or does it bring it to destruction? That's the other part of it. But, these are the things with festivals. For example, if you're a writer yourself, and you are, Sheryl,
mm-hmm.
if your story is taking place in December
mm-hmm.
or November, you have to write about Thanksgiving and Christmas.
It's integral to everything that people are doing.
It's integral. Yeah. I mean, you can't skip over it.
Right.
So what I've done is I've used several festivals, major festivals, in books 1 and 2 in the series, in the Winds of Fire series. And I've used them to actually propel the momentum, I would say the momentum and the feel
mm-hmm.
of how the characters interact with each other, because it's so natural for things to come together during festivals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a question of, as an author, how do you handle it? So there's a lot of details about Diwali. There's a lot of details about what goes into the preparation, which
mm-hmm.
you can always read about in there.
Mm-hmm.
From dressing up to, and if you can imagine this gorgeous Priyanka Chopra dressing up for Diwali, well, you have another story right there.
Absolutely.
So those are the detail, the level of details that I've gone into with the festivals, that it's woven into the fabric because it's so a part of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Well, I cannot wait to hear more about the books. That's very exciting.
Yeah.
So, I'll have you back on again. We'll go into really deep depth about the stories because everything that you've told me about them, I'm just like, wow, I've got to read this. So, but I appreciate you coming here just, to talk about Diwali in this wonderful festive month, and look forward to having you back.
Thank you so much. And I really enjoyed this.
Well, thank you. Happy Diwali.
Happy Diwali to you too.
Thank you.
If you like this podcast so far, please continue following along by tapping the subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts. If you really liked it, go on, be awesome, and leave a rating and a review. Find me on all social media too by searching Sheryl with an S, Parbhoo, that's Parbhoo. Thanks for listening to Southern Life Indian Wife.
With the Capital One Quicksilver Card, you earn unlimited 1.5% cash back on every purchase everywhere. It's easy. That's just the way I like it. Oh, that's the way, I like it. That's the way, I like it. Woo! The Quicksilver Card from Capital One. What's in your wallet? That's the way,
Capital One Bank, USA, NA.